So there are 4 ways to call people out, and the call out is so important. And so just keep in mind, I'm gonna go through this real quick, and then I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like in real life. Okay, so the 4 call outs are shared values and or passions. It's problems, desires, and identity. So what does any of this actually mean? So what this looks like is, so when we're talking about shared values and our passions, right? This can be like, hey, I know that Tessa is a dog lover. So for her, if she had her own personal page, she might show her dogs in the video. Doesn't mean she's talking about dogs. It doesn't mean she's putting up dog memes unless it's related to maybe her marketing strategy or something like that. But I will notice it in her page. So maybe it's her walking on the river and the dogs are walking in front of her. Maybe it's a picture of her with her fiance and then the dogs are in the picture. Like whatever it looks like, I'm going to see that. For me, I love coffee. So does Tessa. So you're probably going to see a mug. You're probably going to see me drinking coffee while I'm talking. But also faith is also a shared value, right? So if somebody has the same faith as me, they're probably going to be drawn to what I'm posting, especially if it is a part of my business. Now, there are some people who don't have it as a part of their business, and that's okay. It depends on what you are called to do. Not everybody is called to serve the same people, right? So you have to understand who you are speaking to, and that is a part of the call out. Now, when we talk about problem, I want you guys to really understand this. It is the tangible experience. Now, what do I mean by that? So a good example is Crystal. Like if Crystal were looking into my house, she would probably see me getting frustrated every day and just probably, and I hate to admit this, but probably yelling at my kids, grab your clothes, pick this up. Like that is what she would witness. And that's what we're talking about. Tangible experience is the actual thing happening, not like I feel stressed, not that I'm frustrated, but what is the actual thing that I am doing? Is it that you're losing sleep over your business? Is it that, so, right, the losing sleep part would be it. Is it that you're constantly Googling questions on YouTube, trying to figure things out? Like, what does that really look like? Now, we say this as the ICU, right? It's an ICU. ICU over there losing sleep and stressing about how you're going to pay next month's rent. I see you yelling at your kids, right? And you can say this in different ways. You don't have to say I see you, but that is essentially what you're doing is you're telling somebody. A lot of people see this as pain and like we're like rubbing in salt to a wound, but the reality is that's not what it is. It's saying that I can see you and I understand where you're at. There's a difference. This is not used to be like, oh, you're in so much pain. Let me make you feel vulnerable, right? This is
Pay
about,
money so you can not be out of pain. No.
yeah, yeah, that's not what this is. This is like, I can see where you're at and I understand,
Well, and I
right?
think a good example of this is you create hours of content, but no one's seeing it. That's one of ours. We see you creating at hours, you're working hard on it, or you're trying to do the trends, or you're Googling, or you're buying templates. Those are all things that our people might be doing that we would be looking in the window and seeing it
Yeah,
experience.
exactly. So the next one is desires, right? So the opposite of the problem that they're experiencing is the desire that they want, the outcome that they're looking for. So if it is that they want to be able to build a business because maybe they're struggling, like, to keep a job because perhaps it doesn't cater to their own disability or to their way of working, then the desire is that they're able to create freedom for themselves and be independent, right? Make their own income on their own terms, right? So what is the desire? So you want to build a business to stay home with your kids. You want to get your house organized so that your brain is not malfunctioning every 5 seconds. You want, like, what is the desire? And I always talk about this is the big desire. So I did mention a few things that were smaller, but think of this as the big idea. Like, what is the big outcome? Like, so why does somebody want to organize their house? Why does someone want to protect themselves with Legal Shield? Why does somebody want to buy your book? Like, what is the big desire? Not the small win that they get with you. So for example, people aren't coming to us just to do their messaging. Nobody's like, oh my gosh, I really want to do my messaging today. I'm going to sign up. Like nobody says that to themselves. But what they do know is that the big desire that we help them with is how do you attract the right customer every time, right? So that it becomes seamless, right? That is what they know. So that is the big result, the big desire that they have in the end, is to not have to continuously look for the right person to ask
The
and
roller
bang down
coaster.
doors,
Mhm.
right? So that's our big desire. So what is your big desire that you're speaking to, right? And then the last one is identity. So this is really easy. This is like, I'm a mom, I'm I love Jesus, I'm an introvert, I love to, however somebody identifies themselves, somebody might identify themselves as a soccer player. You have to understand how your audience thinks, right? So now, why does any of this matter? So when we look at this, this would be on, if you're on Instagram, I'll give you a very good example of what this would look like. So you're scrolling through Instagram. Now, anyone who's been to any of our trainings knows that I'm obsessed with baking sourdough. I don't know how, but I'm obsessed with it. And I'm also obsessed with having a farm one day. And I couldn't tell you how to raise a chicken. Okay. But these are the things that I want to be able to do in my life. So there's a few ways that somebody gets my attention as we're scrolling. One is the visual. So it could be that I see a chicken on the screen, right? So for you, it could be a disorganized house, like on one half of the screen, and then on the other half is an organized house for, whatever it is, right? But there is something visual. If somebody like loves coffee, then it might be that I have a mug. If I'm speaking specifically to people who are faith driven, it might be a coffee mug that says, Jesus is our CEO. Like whatever it is, there are visual cues. But here's the other part. It's the written cue. Now, this is really important because this is where you're going to experiment. I'm going to challenge you guys to actually go and do this. Okay. So this week, I want you to think of these 4 things. If you need to take a screenshot of it, feel free. And I want to challenge you to actually write something on your thing. So what it might look like. So for the problem is, hey, I see you over there stressed out or, losing sleep or whatever it is that they're going through. I wouldn't say stressed out, just so we're clear. Sorry, it comes out naturally. But it should be something that they cannot misinterpret. What I mean by that is if Lucky's idea of being stressed is different from Jacqueline's idea of being stressed, then we're speaking to 2 different people. It's the same thing when you say, like maybe the desire is money. And I say, hey, I know you want to make more money. What does that look like? Because I could be speaking to somebody who just wants to make $500 a month more, or I could be speaking to somebody who is hoping to make $20,000 a month more. Those are 2 completely different people, right? So we have to understand and be super specific with what the messaging is. The same thing for identity is, so on my personal page, I will speak to mamas, right? Because that's just who I identify with, right? Somebody who's raising a business and kids at the same time. That's who I speak to. So that is something I use in my personal message, but it's not something I use over on Move to CEO typically, right? But we had to test this out. And how we tested it out was by creating either a carousel, a still photo with wording on it, or a reel with the title. And then we actually just did all these different ones. And
Right,
so,
just changing one piece of it.
yeah.
And that way you can see only this title is the thing that's different from here to here. And this is how many people looked at it or commented or,
Yeah.
the exposure that you got to that one. Then you can see which one wins.
And it isn't about growing followers when you are testing. It is about how many, so you can go into your insights, whether it's LinkedIn, whether like any place, you should be able to see your insights and you can see how many people who weren't following you actually looked at it. So for example, let's say 100 people look at a post. On my likes, it might not say anything. People don't really like posts these days. They like them, they enjoy them, but very few people are actually pressing the like button these days. So what I don't care about my likes. What I care about is how many new people see this. So for example, what's going to happen is I'm going to put up a post. It's going to show up in their feed. Now, if they stay on it, it will show up as somebody watched it, even if it's for a few seconds, but it was enough for them to read those first 3 to 7 seconds. That tells me that I have the right messaging, like I'm getting there, right? And so that is what you're really looking for, is how many new people are seeing this. So if out of the 100 people, 2 of those were new people looking at it, I need to test my messaging a little bit more, right? If it's 30 people and it's increasing, then we know we're getting hotter. And that's the thing that we have to remember.
Yes.
Yes. So that's it. That is the quick
That's
training
our
for
mini
today.
training, which is a